Today we'll be drawing this coyote skull. First, on the black paper, I'm going to block out my skull shape with an HB pencil because you can kind of see where I erased before on the black paper. It will show up, eraser marks will show up on the paper because it's black, but pencil will erase much easier than the white charcoal once we start applying it. So that's why I like starting with an HB pencil, because I know that once I apply the charcoal, it's just going to kind of disappear into a bit. So here I start to try to smudge my midtones with the charcoal like I would with like willow charcoal. But this charcoal is a lot harder than the willow charcoal, and I just find that it's getting kind of muddy. So I abandoned the smudging plan and I go mostly to hatching and hand pressure to get my highlights, midtones, and shadows. So this is where cross contour and planner analysis come in handy. So now you can see I'm following the shape of the skull. I'm going in and locking in some areas that I feel like I got the proportions pretty well on. And as I shade in, I'm following the planes of the skull. I'm not blocking everything into like strict planner analysis, but I am going to start to follow like areas that are flat, I'm going to shade flat. Areas that are curved, I'm going to shade on a curve. And of course, because we're using white on black paper, what I'm shading in is actually the highlights and the light areas, and the black of the paper is standing in as those shadows in dark areas. So we're working totally reductively with this process, going black to white, which is opposite of how we usually work in class when we're just drawing with pencil, and partially how we work when we worked with toned paper and worked both additively and subtractively. So here we're adding in highlights. I'm jumping around the skull trying to find the moments where it's brightest and making sure I don't just shade everything one tone, because the one mistake you don't want to do is just go in with your white charcoal and color it entirely white, because we know that the skull isn't going to have just 100% highlights. It's going to be, there is going to be shadow, there is going to be midtones. It will just depend on your lighting, of course. My lighting was more ambient, but if you have a direct kind of spotlight on it, have more of a chiaroscuro effect, with really intense lights and shadows, you might have more dark areas and more intense highlight areas rather than having a lot of midtones that you're working with. So here I am, just kind of going around. So this will just continue until I am satisfied that I have enough highlights and midtones and shadow areas in my skull. And then once I've got all my values in, then I'll go in and add any small details. Like there might be like cracks or erasing some lines that I don't want there anymore. So that's it, drawing a skull on black paper.